Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to The Talking Point. We're going to be discussing all about Liverpool. I've got none other than Manchester United fan, Joe Tomlinson, who I'm sure is over the moon. But I've also got Liverpool fan and 90 Mins, Grizz Khan. How are you doing, my friend?
Not as well as Joe and the United story. It's amazing how, we're getting to talk about Liverpool just when Man United are flying. It's amazing. The irony, but yeah, it is. Thank you very much for having me on. Doing okay from a personal point of view, but yeah, club-wise, I'm sure we're going to get into it. It's not the best of times right now.
Yes, well, let's get into it because, as you mentioned, not the best of times. Liverpool lost 3-0 to Brighton over the weekend. A big scoreline. At the end of the game, we saw Jurgen Klopp going over to the Liverpool supporters, putting his head in his hands, bowing his head, putting his hands together. He looked very, very sorrow. He felt very, very, not the normal Jurgen Klopp that we see fist bumping all the time, or fist pumping, I should say, rather than bumping, that's for sure. Now, when he was asked as well after the game, he said, it was really bad, really bad. I can't remember a worse game. So, Grizz, let's just kick it off with Brighton, the most recent kind of game. What went wrong, and was it the worst game you've seen under Jurgen Klopp?
I'll answer the easy part of it. Was it the worst game I've seen under Jurgen Klopp? Yes, that's the easy part. And the complicated part to that question is what went wrong, because, how long have you got, mate? Yeah, I called it the worst coached performance under Jurgen Klopp I've ever seen. And that's a huge statement considering he's been here sort of from the start, sort of taking over the team from Rodgers. But yeah, look, so many Liverpool fans sort of know about the situation, about signings, midfielders, injuries, players playing out of position, players coming out of contract, ownership stuff. That all goes out the window when you've got the team that we had lined up against Brighton. That was no way a team that should be outplayed, and I mean outplayed from the start of the game to right to the wherever it was, 93rd or 94th minute. I thought it was an abysmal performance, embarrassing, and that was the worst coached performance, and that's quite sad to see. And I think Jurgen Klopp kind of admitted it afterwards in his press conference last night. And it was as bad as it probably looked or seemed on the highlights that non-Liverpool fans watched. In fact, 3-0 flattered us.
Wow, fair. Wow, that's a big statement. I mean, Joe, obviously they played a midfield of Henderson, Fabinho and Thiago. I mean, a couple of seasons ago, that midfield's not too bad. It's doing pretty well in the Champions League. It's doing pretty well in the Premier League. For you, what do you think is the big difference now? Is it just age?
I think it's partly to do with age, but yeah, like you said, that midfield last season, even the season before, was pretty exceptional. But 12, 18 months is a long old time in football, especially when you play the brand of football that Liverpool have for the last 5 or 6 years, which is high octane, 100 miles an hour at all times. It does take a toll on the legs, especially for a player like Jordan Henderson, who has been one of the sort of identifying figures in that dressing room when it comes to pressing and working hard off the ball. It just doesn't feel like he has the legs to do it anymore. And when you combine him with somebody like Thiago, who is one of the most talented players in the Premier League by far, you also don't have the most legs, and an out-of-form Fabinho. The midfield structure looks a bit of a mess, and they don't have any depth behind it to save them. But overall, the problems for Liverpool, for me, are in defensive structure and midfield. I think expected goals against has them 12th in the league. They're okay going forward. I think third best expected goals in the league as well. But when you combine a poor defensive structure with a midfield that doesn't seemingly have the legs or the ball retention anymore, and the ability to press as a team, which I think is vital for Liverpool, then there starts to be massive unravelling. And then you have injuries as well to the likes of Virgil van Dijk in the forward line, to Luis Diaz, to Darwin Núñez. It's just like everything's gone wrong all at once for Liverpool, and I think it's really difficult for Jurgen Klopp to turn it around overnight, because it's a style of play that is incredibly demanding, and you can't just flick a switch and expect it to happen.
Well, Grizz, you mentioned the coaching, which is really interesting in your answer. What specifically do you think it was? Because this is a defence as well that have played together quite a few times. I remember last season people praising Konate for his appearances in the Champions League and how well he fit into that side. Trent, people have spoken about all season, I guess. Maybe some would argue he gets a bit too much stick. And then you've got Matip as well, who's actually, ever since he's been at Liverpool, been an unbelievable signing. What do you think exactly it's been in that kind of coaching and what's changed?
I agree with Joe a lot of what he said, especially in terms of what he said about the legs and age, but more so sort of the mileage in the legs that we've got in the current set of players. I think, and obviously, Jurgen Klopp knows more about football, do you know what I mean, than me.
Maybe.
Just a tad, but he's asking the same players to play the same high octane gegenpressing type of football that he asked of them while they were in their prime 5 years ago. So you've mentioned that for example, let's take that midfield: Henderson, Fabinho, and Thiago. Now Thiago obviously has only been here for 3 years now, and even when he was recently asked what has he learned under Jurgen Klopp, and he kind of tongue-in-cheek said he's taught me how to run, which obviously he didn't mean sort of just run, but he meant in terms of how to press and where to press and sort of a different style of football. We didn't really buy Thiago to become a gegenpresser, if you know what I mean. He was supposed to be the icing on the cake. We tried to evolve this style of football that was initially put in place, and we done magnificently with it. But we had everyone in their prime. We had a Sadio Mane who was absolutely in his prime, a physical specimen, Mohamed Salah, and a certain Bobby Firmino. Now our defense, our whole team started from them three, not only just pressing like madmen, but strategic pressing, knew exactly passing lanes how to cover. They had been playing together for 5-6 years. And then that triggered the midfield where we had a prime Gini Wijnaldum, a prime Henderson, and a prime Fabinho. We're asking the midfield to do the same job 5 years later, lads, with so much mileage in their legs, and they're just physically not able to do it, in my opinion. And that's where my criticism for Jurgen Klopp comes in, because either evolve your formation, your style, or you're going to get performances like we've been seeing this, where they just can't keep up with the runners covering the spaces they're asked to space, especially when the three that I mentioned up front, only one is left, Mohamed Salah. The other two were integral. I mean, everyone knows what Bobby Firmino is and does for the team, but you only realize it, and Sadio Mane, when they're not in the team. And I think it's showing such intelligent, high-working presses. And we're paying for it right now because, of course, Gakpo started his first game. Yeah, totally different how he's been playing for PSV to Liverpool. Even just when Diaz was getting used to it, he gets injured. So it is a combination of injuries, but a lot of it you have to. And even though he's the greatest manager of my lifetime, and he's absolutely my king, I'm not no way calling out Klopp in terms of job in threat or danger or whatever. But I'm just saying, he just hasn't tactically evolved as much as he should have.
Interesting. I mean, I feel for you on the injury front as a Chelsea fan. I know all about it, my friend. I know all about it. And just like a car as well, right? If you get a car after 5 years, it's not going to be as good as when you were first using it. Joe.
Good metaphor, mate.
Thank you.
Nailed that.
Thought that in the moment.
Been planning that.
Joe, obviously, we kind of mentioned about Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah.
He said as well in the press conference, the transfer market is not the solution for us. My job is to use the boys we have. I mean, that kind of feels a little bit of a box ticker for Klopp with the current ownership. There is obviously talks as well about new owners. How much do you think that has an impact? I mean, Manchester United are in a similar position, and you guys actually went for a loan option for a striker. Do you think that's maybe where Liverpool should be looking?
Well, I think Liverpool have got the funds to buy players. It's been proven this window already with Cody Gakpo coming in at £38 million. I think if the right option's there, I think Liverpool would happily move. I think the issue for them is that the right option isn't completely obvious, and in the obvious ones are worth hundreds of millions of pounds. You think of the likes of Enzo Fernandez, who would come in, probably have a transformative effect, Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham. We're talking £100 million players, and we're talking players that simply don't move in a January window. So Liverpool are currently balancing the idea of a total midfield revamp, which they obviously want to do. They tried to get Tchouaméni through the door, for example, and it didn't happen, with the need for short-term success. I think Liverpool fans probably would accept, a slight step back this season, even if it meant finishing outside the Champions League places, if they went and then in the summer and signed Enzo Fernandez and Jude Bellingham for long-term stability. I think the issue that Liverpool are going to have is that by not finishing in the Champions League, they might then miss out on those players. You've seen the reports linking Declan Rice to Arsenal over the last 24 hours. I think a season ago, Arsenal wouldn't have even been in the conversation alongside a team like Liverpool, whereas now Arsenal suddenly becomes an extremely attractive proposition, doesn't it, with Mikel Arteta at the helm, currently top of the Premier League, and Liverpool seemingly in decline. The same can be said of Enzo Fernandez, who Chelsea are definitely going to be in the conversation for again. You'd probably say Real Madrid are going to be in there. Manchester City very interested in Jude Bellingham. Real Madrid very interested in Jude Bellingham. So by not accepting the short-term, the short-term step back and finish outside the Champions League, they might end up costing themselves one of these big midfielders. They're kind of stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place. I think they do need a total midfield revamp. I love Jordan Henderson, but sadly I think he's at best a squad rotation option in this current side. I think that was proven again at the weekend. I think they definitely need some depth behind Fabinho, who I don't know what's happened there, but doesn't seem like the player he was 12 months ago. And Thiago, with his injury history, just cannot continuously be relied upon. The other midfielders behind them, the likes of Curtis Jones, he hasn't progressed in the way I think they were helping him to. Navigator's out of contract. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain's out of contract. James Milner's out of contract. Harvey Elliott, for me, isn't necessarily a central midfielder. I don't think he offers enough cover for Trent on that right-hand side. So Liverpool are stuck between a rock and a hard place. And if they want to get these £100 million midfielders, they're going to have to finish in the Champions League, I think, this season. I think finishing outside the Champions League immediately writes you off of Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham.
Okay, I mean, Arsenal have shown that finishing outside the Champions League, being a bit of devil's advocate, can also still get players. I mean,
yeah, but they're not signing these primo talents.
Yeah, they're not the £100 million
being chased by teams like Manchester City and Real Madrid, are they? They're the offcuts from Manchester City, who are already one of the greatest teams in the world.
Yeah, that is understandable. Grizz, I mean, is there any players right now that you think could help for now in January? I think Jude Bellingham is just not a transfer that can be done in January for the money as well, especially when you are currently looking for new owners. Is there anybody that you've seen that you think, you know what, a loan deal there? I mean, obviously you tried to get Arthur in. You have Arthur in. That was unfortunate with the injury straight away. Is there anyone that you've been looking at or thought of that, you know what, this guy could help our midfield massively?
Yeah, look, I was sat there like, the Churchill dog just nodding away with everything Joe was saying. He nailed it. Like, I don't know why you needed an LFC rep. He absolutely nailed it. Everything he said, I agree with. In terms of players that could help us right now, there's loads. I mean, look. See, the thing is, us fans, we're fickle, aren't we? And I'm not one of these fickle fans that's suddenly saying, oh, bomb this player out. But he's nailed it. Like, all these are legends. Like, Jordan Henderson is an absolute legend of Liverpool, and he will be forever remembered as a legend. Same with Fabinho. But they haven't got the physical attributes to play the Jurgen Klopp system right now. And I don't think they'll ever recover that. It's not something that you can change or recover. Everyone thought this World Cup gap, holiday in Dubai, training in Dubai, might fix it. It hasn't fixed it. Look, my favourite target from months ago was Moises Caicedo of Brighton. We've been linked with him for ages and ages. But we know Brighton are such a magnificently run club now that they can ask for a price and stick to it and don't get bullied or intimidated in the market. Even if someone like a Chelsea or a Liverpool come through, we've seen what they've done with Cucurella, with Ben White, all going for, some would say, extortionate fees, but that's up to each individual club how much they value them at. I value Moises Caicedo. This might come as a shock to Liverpool fans, or it may not. I value him in terms of importance and need as much as a Jude Bellingham, guys.
Wow. So
therefore, if Jude Bellingham is being quoted 120 million circa, Moises Caicedo, for me, is a game changer, very much in the mode of when we bought Fabinho in his prime, when we bought Salah in his prime, Mane, Virgil, Alisson. We do need now 3 or 4 players that are going to be that are going to help the Liverpool 2.0. That's how much I rate this Moises Caicedo. And trust me, it's not hindsight. It's not bandwagon. I'm jumping on that Moises Caicedo bandwagon. If anyone follows him on Twitter, unfortunate enough to follow me on Twitter, I've been singing his praises for the last 10 months. So, but they're asking 75 million for him. Does it make sense in the current climate and with our ownership sort of change in place process. You're right. We're stuck in a vicious circle right now. We don't know how to move forward, and it does everything that Liverpool have been good at. We're not good at suddenly. So we've always been praised about our analytical team, our ownership not getting involved, letting the sporting director get involved, Jurgen Klopp, the pull of Jurgen Klopp. Everything is in turmoil, and it's showing on the pitch. The owners don't know whether they're selling or they want minority investment. Sporting director is leaving at the end of the season after not even completing a year. Well, he's going to be completing a year, but he's handed his resignation. We haven't had a head of medical team for a few months. We have now. And a lot of backroom staff leaving as well. So it's the total opposite of what everyone used to praise Liverpool for the last 5-6 seasons. We need to get clarity right from the top, leadership right from the top, and then hopefully things will get better on the pitch as well.
Well, there we have it. That is how you can fix Liverpool. That is the issues of Liverpool at the moment. Grizz, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Your social, if you want to see more of Grizz as well, it will all be in the description below. Joe Thompson, thank you very much. I'm sure you enjoyed that. Much appreciated.
He enjoyed it, yeah. I bet he enjoyed it, yeah.
Let us know what you guys thought in the comments below. Who can fix Liverpool's midfield? Is it Caicedo? Let us know down there. Like the video, and as always, guys, subscribe to Football Daily.